First story. A friend sent his husband a hidden camera recording of his wife cheating on him with a famous singer. Terrifying revenge for cheating. Watch it all the way to the end. You won't regret it. I have heard amazing stories of adultery more than once or twice, but I never thought I would be in their shoes. I still don't understand how that happened. My wife has never required anything, according to appearances, and I appear to make a respectable living. Yes, in theory, and my intimate life has always been at a high level, or so it has previously seemed to me. One thing happens as a result. My wife starts to walk, and my horns start to scratch the ceiling. Where did everything begin? Random encounters or discussions have frequently occurred in my life and drastically altered the course of my entire existence. I owe my professional success and useful relationships outside of work to them. This time, the situation was much the same. I frequently do this to give my brain a little vacation during my lunch break as I leisurely strolled across the city and casually turned my head in the direction of a neighboring restaurant. What was there that I saw? It goes without saying that my wife is with his ex-boyfriend. I nearly lost my footing, even with my eyes somewhat obscured by the onslaught of feelings. I collected myself after a few moments, determined it wouldn't be too hot to wait until nightfall, and decided to finally put an end to the problem. I most definitely wouldn't allow someone to get me horny. I eventually made it to my workplace, where I started to wait in a frenzy for the conclusion of the workday. Because there was going to be a fairly serious conversation had something to start it. In this brief period of time, I more or less managed to calm my nerves. But I had no idea what a true performance would be in these kinds of situations. Accused his wife of infidelity right away. What if she simply met her ex by chance in a restaurant? But given that the restaurant was located 10 kilometers from our home, at the opposite end of the city, what was she to do there? There were many unanswered questions. Therefore, it was important to choose the best answer in order to get the complete truth. Finally, the workday came to an end. I got in my car and slowly made my way home while thinking about everything in a delirious manner. I didn't even realize how far I had traveled. I was now at home. I sat for a while before getting up to go. My wife threw herself into my arms from the threshold, as she always did. I slowly backed away and calmly entered the kitchen before sitting down at the dining room table and requesting my wife make me some coffee. This is how I usually end my day at the workplace. She followed my instructions as if nothing had happened. So I inquired as to her day's activities and any recent events. My wife lied calmly and in front of my eyes that she had gone to the store with friends and purchased a few new blouses without even flinching. Yes, because of this kind of snobbery, I almost fell off the chair there. It must be able to be so bold as to lie and not blush. Then it occurred to me that we should gather incriminating proof before dumping all the wives. I thus made that choice. I sneaked out the following morning and snatched her car's keys. I unlocked it and placed the covert recorder in a private location. What? It would provide a sizable body of proof. Following our breakfast together, I went to work as usual. Such a tight pace carried on for 3 days. The work piled up so much that I nearly forgot about the event with his wife, as if by coincidence. But as the long-awaited weekend finally arrived, I made the decision to check the recorder. I watched it while almost shaking my hands. My worst concerns came true as I had expected. How much was my wife cheating on me? She was speaking to his best buddy when he claimed that she had drunkenly flirted with 2 of her coworkers at the next corporate party, in addition to the fact that she frequently has meetings with his ex in the exact automobile I got her for her birthday. I was practically on the ground there. It turns out that she had been cheating on me virtually nonstop, and I, being stupid and brainless, had not even caught her. Now, though, I was certain about my wife. What to do with her at this point was the only crucial decision I had to make. Living with her wasn't something I wanted. To induce regret in her for her actions. I could carry it out. I made the decision to come up with a plan of action. I'll start dancing her now. The next day, I took the day off work and traveled to a nearby small town to visit the father of my wife. I want to give you some background information about this individual. He had spent practically his whole life serving his nation as a retired colonel. These are not simply hollow words. This is a genuine guy who sacrificed everything for the benefit of his country. I encountered him pretty frequently, and we frequently went to him in the bath when I was caring for his daughter, who would later become my wife. I treated her badly both times I spoke to her. The colonel probably believed he had given his daughter in marriage to a virgin since he barely ever allowed her to leave the house. She only had activities at school and home. I suppose that's why, when she married me, she went all out and went out with everyone else. I thus made the decision to exact this exact retaliation. I was well aware that my wife's father would probably just kill my wife if he learned what his cherished daughter had done. Of course, I may be exaggerating, but he would have likely done the same if she had been present when I informed him. The colonel first stumbled, and for a few moments, I even worried a bit about his health because of how old he was. But it turned out that the soldier was a tough guy. He poured himself a drink of vodka and quickly drained it while turning to face me. Then he stealthily rose up and stumbled into the next room after repeating the same technique twice more. I then understood that I needed to go back. The essential information had been sent to the intended recipient, and now that I had forced my wife out of the family home, repercussions were certain to follow. Thankfully, we hadn't started a family yet. I quietly sat in the driver's seat and headed to the home. Right first, I want to reassure everyone that nothing dreadful or heinous occurred to my wife. When I got home, I collected all of my ex-wife's belongings in a cool-headed manner and calmly threw them out the door. I should make mention of the significant fact that my wife was observing everything I did. Even so, she did not move. She was able to decipher everything from my icy gaze. I didn't cause a big controversy since I knew very well that my wife cared more about the financial values I could provide for her than about me. But just now, everything would vanish from her in a second. After all, I, a licensed attorney, had taken the trouble to draft a prenuptial agreement, and my wife would now be without all she had been enjoying so safely for the previous several years. The actual and most heinous kind of punishment for her is that. Finally, a year later, I ran into a friend of my ex-girlfriend and casually asked about her well-being. She said that her father had discontinued all communication and thrown her out of the house. She currently resides outside of her hometown with a man she has a common-law marriage to. They lead relatively simple lives. Some could even say subpar ones. My ex-wife frequently writes on social media about how I wrecked her entire life and how I was such a jerk. For more than 20 years, my wife and I had shared a home. 6 months ago, we had our anniversary. Our recently married 21-year-old daughter got us a brand new contemporary TV set as a gift for this occasion. Our family was never wealthy, but we always had enough money. My wife, a writer by trade, occasionally goes to other cities on business, which provides the family with a substantial one-time income. Together, we both make decent money. Of course, I wish she didn't have a job at all, but she enjoys writing articles and interacting with new people so much that she doesn't want to quit her job. By the way, I was the one who started her employment at the previous job. Since the manager of the magazine where my wife currently works is a longtime friend of mine, up until a certain point, I was generally content. My wife informed me one evening, I can't remember when exactly, a month or two ago, that she was traveling to a nearby town to interview a rock star who was due to perform. I was a little disappointed since I planned to spend the next evening with her alone, but my wife was so thrilled to tell me about the trip's plans that I couldn't help but grin and give her a beautiful kiss. I wished her well and a safe journey. She came back 3 days later. Her actions were peculiar in some way. I questioned her numerous times about her health and her ability to carry out her intentions. In any case, how went the interview? In response to all of my inquiries, she grinned at me bewilderedly and assured me that everything was okay. Even though I had no more questions, something inside of me kept me up at night like a creaky cat. And there was a reason, it turned out. Soon after, I received a call from an old buddy who had assisted in getting my wife a job and invited me to the bar. I affirmed. It had been a while since we had our last drink together. We met and had a casual conversation about something at the time specified in the contract on the spot. But things continued to get worse. My friend offered me a drink or two and then launched into a monologue, saying, "Buddy, I have something to tell you. Just pledge to exercise self-control." Though wary, I nodded. Igor revealed to me information that I could only have imagined in my darkest nightmare. My wife had betrayed me when I was on my most recent work trip. The offender stated it after becoming wasted during an interview with a music star. My friend removed the video from the changing area. I regret seeing the tape. My fury, bitterness, and rage knew no bounds. My wife naturally noticed my condition when I arrived home. When she realized what had happened, she almost fell to her knees and started to apologize and give me reasons. My pain was severe. How does one forgive such an act? And earlier, we were really content. In response to her cries for mercy, I remained silent. I didn't say a word as I quietly left the flat. The next day, I went to my daughter's place to sleep so as not to disturb her and her husband. I behaved deliriously for the next 24 hours. I can't recall how I completed work-related reports, reached her, or returned. I came late at my home. My daughter and son, along with the rest of my family, were there and waiting for me. They voiced their thoughts on the mother's genuineness and regret. The cheater also promised to resign from her position and show me that she was truly sorry for her error and was unable to forgive herself. She pleaded with me not to divorce her. I kept quiet while I listened to them. And I was even relieved that my kids had the good sense to retain their fond feelings for both the guilty parent and me as a parent. But I'm unable to pardon my wife. I keep seeing the horrible videos picture. I understand that I will never be able to sleep with my wife again. That concludes the tale of our hero. Comment with your thoughts, and don't forget to subscribe and like. You have a lot of wonderful stories to read. Additionally, you can send me your original life stories, which I will share. And as usual, I send my best wishes your way. And best wishes. I appreciate your attention. The next story is about a husband coming home early in the morning and seeing his wife naked on her lover. Sometimes people decide on the spot who don't expect this from themselves. And the results are sometimes shocking and sometimes hilarious. In this case, the cheating spouse ended up doing just fine. And the cheating spouse was left with nothing. After stories like this, you really start to believe in karma or divine providence. Who's to say? It all started when Vadim in the social networking news saw the publication of a confession of a certain girl, whom he accepted as a friend a few months ago at her request. The gist of it came down to her having an affair on the side, and she, appropriately enough, was married. She asked for advice on what to do about her husband and her lover. She loves her husband, but has an irresistible craving for a new partner. This craving is exclusively animal in nature. Desire for sex with a man after his appearance sex with her husband does not want at all. But at the same time, there is no mental craving for a new partner. That is why she is ashamed in front of her husband. And she cannot stop. Vadim wrote a comment that she has to make a choice at any rate, or tell her husband everything about her inability to stop. If he knew then that he was really giving advice to his own wife. But there must have been a vibe, because he got a chill inside of him after he posted it. Suddenly, he thought about his relationship with his wife and realized how estranged they had become in the last couple of months. He also wondered specifically about his wife. She was getting a little rambunctious. Vadim decided to talk to his wife, discuss their lives, and do it in a positive atmosphere. A couple of days later, he took the afternoon off from work and bought a bouquet of flowers, champagne, and drove home. His wife works in the network and promotes social networking accounts. Naturally, he wanted to surprise her in this way, but not every husband is as lucky as he is. He saw his wife live in bed with another man in the process. She was on top of him in a pose on the stairs. I don't know about Vadim, but I certainly wouldn't have reacted the way he did. They were engrossed in the act of merging, didn't notice his arrival. Vadim went into the hall, took his camera and spied some pictures. Then he left the house. He walked aimlessly around the city, coming to his senses. Thoughts of revenge ran through his head. He imagined all sorts of ways to humiliate his wife. But after walking around for a few hours, the fuse had passed. Vadik firmly decided not to clarify the relationship, just to post pictures on Facebook, thus alerting his wife. Of course, this surprise was not without revenge. All mutual acquaintances saw the piquant picture. The wife was shocked. A husband who would not accept his wife's lies. That's how he titled his post. While posting a series of pictures of adultery on Facebook, he also wrote, "When you came home to cuddle your wife and find another man in bed with your beloved, something inside forever dies. Good men deserve good women. Goodbye, Alice." Facebook users then erupted. The vast majority stood up in support of the guy's despicable wife. Everyone wrote to him, "You're too good for her." Subsequently, I wrote to him to find out how their situation was resolved. He narrated that they were divorced, and his wife also told him that she had made that post about cheating on her husband under a different account. She told him about it, wanting to soften her guilt. Like, she was agonizing, actually asking him to forgive her. But when he told her that he decided to surprise her under the influence of that publication, she regretted writing it. But, as they say, that's karma in action. And Vadim started a relationship with a girl who was his virtual friend. He liked her, but while he was married, he couldn't afford it.